The thing that's most frequently missing, surprisingly, is the ask. So you go through this whole presentation and tell me how great your company is and why I should invest, and then don't ask me for an investment. Don't tell me how much money you're seeking, what your round details are, all of that. That's missing from more decks than you would imagine. So I would say always ask for what you want, either at the beginning or the end of the deck. Let me know what it is that you're looking for, what you want from me as the investor, right? And what the terms of that investment is. And then I'd say the other thing that's most on the frustrating side, and again, something that's frequently missing, is customer traction. Is one of the biggest things that we look for. And I like to tell the story of one of our portfolio companies. The first time I ever saw their pitch deck, there was a quote on every slide from a potential customer saying, we want this product. This is what we'd be willing to pay for the product. This is, and so that told me immediately, this company has traction with their customers. They've spoken to their customers. Customers have agreed to let them be quoted in the pitch deck. That means you have good relationships with them. And so that's a great way to signal to venture capitalists or investors that your company is worthwhile to invest in, because you have that customer traction already.
Welcome back to the Cold Star Project. I'm Jason Kanigan, the founder of this thing, Cold Star Technologies, data science and process improvement company. And I'm here with Meagan Crawford, who is the managing partner of SpaceFund. This is season 3. We are talking to venture capitalists and investors who focus on space companies. She is not only the managing partner of SpaceFund, but the co-founder of a new space marketing company called brand DeltaV, which I'm going to ask you a couple questions about, and the host of her own podcast, the Mission Eve podcast, which I am interested in exploring with you as well. She's a member of several boards in the space business and has an MBA from Rice Business, Jones Graduate School of Business. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jason. It's a pleasure.
All right. So I want to focus in on space investment. What does a space company mean to you at SpaceFund? How do you define it?
So we like to keep that definition fairly broad so that we can be as inclusive of as many companies as possible. The bigger our pipeline, the more opportunities we have to find good investments. But a lot of people think of space companies as satellite companies who put things into space or who do things into space. And there's a lot more to the space ecosystem than that. The primary product that we get from space right now is data. And so how does that data get back down from space, and then how is it made usable for the humans here on Earth? And so that includes a lot of companies that are that look more like software companies, for instance, than a space company, but they're dealing with space data. And there's a lot of terrestrial support services and things like that as well that are part of that space ecosystem. So we like to look at any company that's creating value related to space in any way.
Okay. So this could be a fun question. But what's the most frustrating thing about reviewing potential space investments for you? Like you're looking through a pitch deck and you're like, oh my gosh, they've missed this again. What is that thing?
So yeah, interestingly, both with my experience at the fund and I have for about a decade now been running something called the newspace business plan competition, which is the world's oldest space-focused business plan competition. So I've read over 1,000 space business plans pitches over the years, so I've literally seen it all, right? Probably seen more of these than just about anybody on the planet. So, and I'd say the thing that's most frequently missing, surprisingly, is the ask. So you go through this whole presentation and tell me how great your company is and why I should invest, and then don't ask me for an investment. Don't tell me how much money you're seeking, what your round details are, all of that. That's missing from more decks than you would imagine. So I would say always ask for what you want, either at the beginning or the end of the deck. Let me know what it is that you're looking for, what you want from me as the investor, right? And what the terms of that investment is. And then I'd say the other thing that's most like on the frustrating side, and again, something that's frequently missing, is customer traction. Is one of the biggest things that we look for. And I like to tell the story of one of our portfolio companies. The first time I ever saw their pitch deck, there was a quote on every slide from a potential customer saying, we want this product. This is what we'd be willing to pay for the product. This is, and so that told me immediately, this company has traction with their customers. They've spoken to their customers. Customers have agreed to let them be quoted in the pitch deck. That means you have good relationships with them. And so that's a great way to signal to venture capitalists or investors that that your company is worthwhile to invest in because you have that customer traction already. And so one of the things I always tell our business plan competitors as well is that, you know, the best image you can put in your slide deck is an image of your product in use by a delighted customer, right? So talk to me about your customers and then ask me for what you want. Those are the two suggestions I have for anybody putting together a deck.
Amazing. It seems so straightforward, doesn't it?
It does.
But the customer development side is often missing. Folks can go find some Steve Blank stuff for that and put it into action. But I love the idea of having a quote from the customer, a picture of the customer using the product, because it's undeniable proof of concept, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
Well, you know, you can have the best technology in the world, but as we say, if the dogs don't want the dog food, you know, nobody's going to buy it, right? So in order to make a business, you have to have sales. And so tell me who you're going to sell to and convince me that they want to buy your product.
Right. I didn't know until I'd done a couple of these interviews that you could dig in as an interviewer. I could dig in a little more closely to the stories of the investments that you've done. I thought those would be off limits, but I'm learning that no, actually, under circumstances, you know, we're still keeping privacy in mind and whatnot, and compliance. We can dig into that. But so the idea of like the ask being missing, that is genuinely a surprise. I knew about the customer development stuff missing, and oh, we've got this great technology. Well, who cares? Apparently, no one yet, right? But the not knowing how much money you want to ask for. I would like to know if you have gone through the process of talking to folks about that and helping them with it. And what their mindset was. Like, was it just, well, I'm going to dump this onto Megan's lap and she'll figure it out for me. She's the expert. Or was there something else at work there?
Well, I find that there's usually one of two reasons that the ask is not included. One, they don't know what to ask for, right? Maybe this is their first fundraise and they don't know how to ask or what to ask for, and they're looking to the investors to set the terms. And I'd say that that's very dangerous because although I don't think of myself as a vulture capitalist, there are a lot of them out there that will give you terms that aren't good for you. So I'd say talk to your attorney, talk to some advisors, figure out what the best terms are for your company before you go out and talk to investors. Don't let the investors come to you with the terms. So that's kind of the first bucket of people who don't include the ask, is because they just don't know what to ask for, right? And then the second group is, for some reason, they think that that information should be confidential, right? That they don't want to publicize that. But you know, the deck that you're sending to the investor should absolutely include that information. And if for some reason you don't want to put it in the deck because you're afraid the deck might get shared with people that you don't want for some reason to know that information, include it in the email or the phone call conversation that you have with the investor leading up to sharing that deck. So, you know, if you want to keep it private, fine, but you have to talk to the investor about that. That's the whole conversation you're having with the investor. So, so be sure and include it somewhere if it's not in your deck.
Fascinating. Yeah, if I'm going around shopping for money for people, I'm going to want to give them all the information that they need to make a decision. So yes, folks, please include that. And Megan just gave you an out if you want to keep it mostly confidential. So very, very interesting, almost baffling to me. But, all right. So on the customer development side, obviously you saw, hey, there's a need for some massage adjustment for the positioning of companies and the marketing message of these companies, and so you co-founded this new space marketing company, brand DeltaV. Let's talk a bit about what work you're doing with that, where you believe that working with you fits in for space founders.
So yeah, so one of the things over the years, you know, over the last decade, working with tons and tons of space startups, this marketing and PR tends to be an area that these teams don't have any experience in. You know, brilliant technical founders, maybe some great business leaders on the team, but there's very few people who have expertise in marketing and PR in the new space industry because it is so new. And so my co-founder and I saw a real need in the market for this several years ago. and stood up Brand DeltaV to help specifically these startup companies. And so you hear a lot of times about startups hiring a fractional CFO, for example, because you don't need a full-time CFO. Well, most of these startups don't need a full-time marketing and PR person. They just need a little help getting a press release out, or somebody to help build their website, or whatever, right? And so Brand DeltaV was set up to help those startups who aren't quite ready for a full-time marketing and PR person, but definitely need to start getting the word out about their company. And so very, very focused on only newspace startups. So the entire team at Brand DeltaV is really good at working with those groups and understanding the technical and business challenges that they're facing, because we are such a boutique and focused firm. And so my role there is as founder. I'm not as much involved in the day-to-day. I do have some clients that I work with that are the kind of personal friends, and so I still work on their stuff. But for the most part, I've got a great team there that's just doing excellent work across the new space industry.
Okay. Now, it's great for you and I to sit back from our vantage points and go, you need this kind of help. But can you share with me maybe a story of working with a client there, or what kind of things have you heard or seen founders do where they have realized on their own, oh, I need this kind of help? What kind of situations do they get in? What kind of things are going through their heads when they realize, oh, I need to go talk to a Brand DeltaV?
Usually the thing that sparks it for most of our clients is that they want to get some news out and they don't know how to do that. So whether it's issuing a press release or doing an email blast or blog post, they don't, they don't, especially with the press release, they have no idea how to get a press release out on the wire, right? You kind of need an expert for that. And so a lot of times that'll be the entry point where they come to us. They say, we've just closed a round, for example, and we need to get the news out. How do we do that? And then that'll frequently parlay into other work for us. Things like, well, let's help clean up your website so that we can also post this on your website in a way that's aesthetically pleasing and search engine optimized, for example, and things that they maybe haven't thought about, right? So, but yeah, it's usually they come to us when they need to get some news out, and then we go from there. We've also worked with startups who have come to us that are, very, very early stage, and they say, we don't know what to name our company. How do we figure out how to name this thing, right? And so, we have them come to us at the very beginning sometimes with those kinds of questions too. So it really kind of runs the gamut. But, the news part of it and the press relations and getting people out into the press is something that we do a lot for our clients to help them start getting the word out. And then we can go from there and work on marketing materials and, all the rest.
Okay, fantastic. This is Jason Kanigan from Cold Star Tech, and I'm excited to share with you a new offer from Cold Star that we are bringing out to help both space founders and venture capitalists who fund space companies. And it's on two levels. The lower level is a VC who is looking at possibly funding a space company, but they just don't get it. Right? And a lot of tech founders want to come out and create some sort of technical capability, but they do not understand business. And so you'll look and you'll go, where's the customer here? Where's the business model? And they'll go, but I want to make rockets or something, right? And it's really cool. Well, that, as we know from the dot-com era, is not a viable business model. And so you bring us in. We've got great technical expertise on the space side, folks who have done this sort of assessment before, like our technical engineering advisor, Dr. Rick Fleeter, myself in the process engineering field, plenty of other people with brains to look at this problem so that you don't have to blow your brains out trying to figure out how to make this work. And on the company side, it's a benefit for them because we will show them the roadmap to how you're going to get funded, how you will want to fund them, what changes to make to get VCs excited about putting money in. And so that's good for you. Right? The second level is at a deeper and higher level at the same time. It is for venture capitalists who have given a seed round to a company, a space company, and that has gone on for a little while, 6 months, a year, something like that. And it is time, as COVID has made it, to double down or get out. Those are pretty much the choices, right? It's time to invest further in a thing we already know, which seems to be the direction VCs are going in right now. They don't seem to want to look at new things or stop, just kill the project. And so the good news is in that situation, there's a lot more going on. There's more meat for cold star experts to get in and analyze, right? You're going to have processes in place, whether they know it or not. We'll be able to flowchart those and maybe accurately document them for the first time so we can get some kind of value chain going in the organization. We'll be able to test whether the leadership is the right group of people or whether you're missing something, the strategic direction, the business model, all this stuff. So if this sounds interesting to you, reach out to us. You can email me at jason@coldstartech.com or just connect with me and message me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way to do it. And I am excited to talk to you. The kind of transformation that we're able to offer here is beyond anything you'll see out there. And as a VC, this will save you so much time and energy, right? Like if you're a VC and you've got 100 companies to look at, you've got 3 days a year to look at each one maybe, right? That's not really good enough, is it? Wouldn't it be better to have experienced, expert space people who understand space, right? Look at this investment and tell you, here's a grade, right? Here are several grade areas. Is this thing ready to pour gasoline on the fire, or is it just going to go up in smoke? This is Jason Kanigan from Cold Star Tech. Let's get back to the interview. Well, let's get back to SpaceFund for a moment. So many founders would like to get beyond building shareholder value and get to what we call an exit from their creation. From my perspective, until I was on your webinar last Friday, it looked like an exit was a difficult outcome to reach in newspace, right? You don't hear a lot of stories about it, but you were talking about like over 100 examples, and some, you know, the average age was 6 or 7 years to get there, which is not too long. Um, you know, some space funds run 10 years, 12 years, right? So it's well within that window. So I'd like to hear more from you about space exits and why you're enthusiastic about the possibilities.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And so it's interesting that you mentioned you had no idea that there were that many exits. I didn't either until we sat down to do the research. Nobody, you know, this was a question I had. And like with much of the research that SpaceFund does, I say, well, I believe XYZ to be true, or I think this might be a thing. And we go to look it up and nobody's ever done the research. So we have to go and do the research to prove it out. And that was the case with these exits as well. And so in the last 2 decades, we found over 100 aerospace exits. And so that's aerospace, which is a broader bucket than new space. And so in that aerospace bucket, some of the companies that exited were 100 years old, or more. So that's not a new space company, right? And so in order to kind of, further define what new space is and just kind of make a break in the data, we defined a new space company as any company that was founded since the year 2000. So the company that's less than 20 years old. And amongst that data set, there were 49 exits. And the average age at exit, as you mentioned, was 7 years, which is well within the lifetime of most venture capital funds. So that's very heartening to know that these companies are exiting in a realistic timeline, not in 100 years, but in 7. And of those 49 exits, only 4 were public offerings. And so that's interesting as well to know that the majority of the exits are M&A, mergers and acquisitions. And those acquisitions are coming from a variety of companies. But you mentioned the webinar that we held last week, and our guest on the webinar was Dylan Taylor from Voyager Space Holdings. And he is acquiring space companies. That's exactly what Voyager does. And they're acquiring companies in the $10 to $50 million revenue range, which is, a good, although you can't equate revenue with age, in a lot of cases, companies in that revenue bucket are about this 5 to 7 year old company. So again, right in line with what a fund like ours is looking to see. Dylan's made 1 acquisition already. He said they have 9 others in their pipeline. They'll be announcing their next one in July. And so what we're seeing is with Dylan being a big part of it, but with others as well, we're starting to see that M&A activity increase in pace. And you're starting to see some of the first wave of successful new space startups to make some acquisitions as well. Rocket Lab recently announced the acquisition of Sinclair Interplanetary. And you're going to start to see some of these other more mature new space startups start to make some acquisitions as well. And so that's increasing in pace every year. and making that exit environment more and more robust, which from our fund perspective is excellent.
Okay, something that just struck me is the is the sale of DSI or Bradford, or, you know, to is it to Bradford, or was Planetary Resources to them?
That is the exit
Okay,
that was
one of
on
them
our
was
sale.
that was an exit. Okay, and the same with Planetary Resources.
Yeah.
Okay, to the, oh, whatever it was, a blockchain firm or something. Yeah, I was like, huh? When I saw, okay, so those do count, and I'm like, those are not great examples of exits, I don't think.
Not every exit is a great one.
Right,
You know,
right,
some are better than others.
right.
Yeah, the
So,
DSI one was not awful. The
yeah,
planetary resources one you could maybe say something different about, but
mm,
but yeah. So not all exits are fantastic,
right.
but some have been. You know, and
Mm-hmm.
so like the sale of Skybox to Google, for example, that was a
Mm,
you know, this $500 million was, I believe, what Skybox was sold to Google for before it became Terabella. But
right.
so there's examples of these really excellent exits as well, and that's the case in any industry. They're going to kind of run the gamut, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I remember one point from that webinar that I learned from you was that the companies didn't need to necessarily raise a lot of money before they exited. They might have raised $4 million and then they get, you know, exited and they're 20 million or 100 million or whatever. So
Right.
that was curious.
And then in other cases, like Virgin Galactic has raised over $1 billion before they did their reverse merger IPO, and
Yeah.
so you know, it runs the gamut from end to end.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, if people want to know more, they can connect up with you. So let's look at an example. We've got this isn't of an exit, but OneWeb I want to look at because it was a VC funded thing. It seemed that it was performing a service. You know, they were creating the infrastructure to perform a service that people were behind. It was a big deal, and yet it was allowed to die, right? So what can space companies do to help themselves not turn out in that fashion?
Well, one of the things that we tell space companies a lot, as you might imagine, we see some interesting pitches. Sometimes they come to us and they say, you know, for just $500 million, you too can have your own whatever, fuel depot in space. Um, $500 million is a lot of money. And any company that has to consistently raise hundreds of millions of dollars, that's a very, very high risk scenario. As we've seen the last few months, the funding market can shift at any time, right? Whether it's a disease or whether it's just a market downturn or right, you never know when the funding market is going to change or dry up. And so if your entire plan is to continue to fundraise in hundreds of millions of dollars buckets, that's again very, very high risk. And so companies that need a large amount of capital, we are always looking for ways for that to be split up, maybe with debt financing, maybe with you know, pre-sales, early customer traction, terrestrial applications for your technology that are more near term that can help you get some capital into the business. And so looking at financing as a risk and looking at ways to de-risk that financing from the beginning can be very, very helpful for the longevity of these companies. And you're not just relying on your one big SoftBank investor, then when SoftBank changes their mind, you're out of business, right? And so just like with anything in business, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Try and de-risk your plans as much as possible and look at alternate methods of fundraising that don't involve exclusively $100+ million rounds of venture capital.
Very cool. Okay. Well, this next question is near and dear to my heart. I did a series of radio interviews in 2014. That's how long this goes back. And it's about career planning. And I believe that you know something about directing your own career from the several stages or career steps I've seen, you know, from your LinkedIn resume to go through to get to where you are now. I've had 4 executive positions created for me without any competitors in my time. Obviously, I'm not interested in being somebody's employee anymore, but I know it can be done because I've done it, right? And the first time was the hardest. So what I would like to do is help get that message across to graduate students, young folks who are about to come out of school, so that they are not adrift in the ocean of firing resumes off in a blizzard in the hope of, you know, a scattershot approach, producing a job, and then you get stuck into a career and you don't even like it. Suddenly 20 years have gone by. They will go by. You'll turn around and blink 3 times and suddenly you'll be 40 and you'll be like, what happened here? So what I am curious about is what advice you have for young people, especially women, in managing their own career.
That's a great question. I really appreciate that one. Thank you. And I found that through my career, there were kind of 2 keys to getting me where I am. And the first one was volunteering. You kind of mentioned at the top that I sit on all of these boards. That's the kind of penultimate version of the volunteering that I started over a decade ago as a college student, volunteering to help at conferences and things like that. And still volunteering my time now as board member of those organizations. But that was the key for me to building my network. So in 2008, I started out as a volunteer for the newspace conference run by the Space Frontier Foundation. I think that first year I was responsible for putting together the program book that, you know, that had all of the programming and the scheduling in it, you know, Microsoft Word document, right? That was my whole volunteer job. But didn't take up much of my time. It was kind of a stupid little volunteer job, but it got me into the network and meeting the other volunteers and meeting the board members of that organization at the time and the founders of that organization. And over the years, I volunteered for other organizations and other conferences. And in fact, my partner now at SpaceFund, Rick Tumlinson, was one of the co-founders of the Space Frontier Foundation. And the way that I originally met him over a decade ago was as a college student volunteer. And here we are all these years later as partners in a venture capital fund, right? And so you never know who you're going to meet, and it's just an absolutely amazing way to build your network. So I would recommend that to everybody. I'll do one more shout out to the Space Frontier Foundation. We are always looking for good volunteers. And you know, my other nonprofit, the Center for Space Commerce and Finance, that runs the business plan competition, same thing. Especially if you're interested in finance or entrepreneurship, it's a great way to get your foot in the door and start meeting the right people. And then I'd say the second key to my career was, like you said, you know, you've had executive positions created for you. I went out and created my own jobs in a lot of instances, whether it was founding my own nonprofit to do the business plan competitions or starting the marketing firm. A lot of cases, I just went out and did something, and it was scary and it was hard and required, you know, support of my family and you know, I don't know if I'm going to get paid next month because I'm going to go try this new crazy thing. And so it does require some risk taking to do that. And you know, not everybody has that tendency. But I found that that's where I've had the most success, is when I just decide to do something and then do it and follow through. And you know, that's worked out quite well for me over the years. Not everything's been a success. There have definitely been failures, but you know, for the most part, you know, if you have a little bit of tenacity and you have a good support network, you can do just about anything you put your mind to. And so if the perfect job doesn't exist for you, go out and create it.
Right on. Yeah. And I found going to smaller companies where you can get to the owner more easily and they don't have all these policies and procedures in between. If you can get sort of a value statement in front of them of, look, this is what I can do for you, that's very powerful. So cool. Well, grow your network. That was a huge takeaway I got from what you had to say. And that is something that it's never too early to do. And it doesn't take, you know, a huge amount of effort. It takes consistency. But yeah, if you go and reach out to just one new person a week, that's 52 in a year, right? And people are pretty nice overall. You know, you're rarely going to get the door slammed in your face. And if you do, you just go, well, that person's a jerk, and move on, right? And remember that. So
I may be setting myself up for a windfall of here, but one of the things that you know, when I get a LinkedIn message from a college student who says, hey, I'm interested in learning more about your career path and what I can do, I always take the time to reply and set up a 30-minute phone call and just have a chat with them. because there were people who did that for me 10 years ago. And so I'm always happy to pass that along. And I know so many of my friends and colleagues in this industry feel the same way. So never hesitate to reach out to somebody and just say, hey, I'm interested in what you've done with your career and would love to learn more. Most people love to talk about themselves. And so, you know, they'll be happy to have a chat with you. And like you said, you do that once a week for a year, you've met 52 new people. And that's 52 potential new opportunities that are in front of you.
Right. And yeah, and it's not always linear either. Like I talked to Meagan and she's the one who offers me the role. It's sometimes it's just this random thing where you know somebody who knows somebody and you hear about it and there it is. So very cool. Well, you've got the Mission Eve podcast. You're on a specific mission with that podcast. Let's hear it.
So to date, only 11% of the people who have been to space have been women. And when the broader aerospace industry, only 25% of the employees are women. So one of the goals for my life is to see the permanent human settlement of space. And if we're talking about human settlements, you're going to need 51% women. And you can talk to me about test tube babies all day. I don't care. People are still going to want to have nuclear families. You're going to need 51% women just biologically. So how do we get from 11% of history's space explorers being women to 51% in a human settlement in space? And for me, the more women I've talked to about this over the years, women are just as inspired by space and interested in space as men. But they don't necessarily see themselves in this industry because they don't have the role models to look up to. And we know that there's statistically less women in STEM. And so one of the things I'm really trying to do with the Mission Eve podcast is say, yes, we need more women in STEM, but there's so many other roles in this industry. You don't have to be a rocket scientist or an engineer. This industry is just like any other. It's a commercial industry. And if you have a skill set that's valuable in oil and gas, that skill set's going to be valuable in space too, whether that's accounting or marketing or finance, whatever your skill set or background is, that can be applied to the space industry. And so I love to talk to women with all kinds of different careers, whether it's business development or running a nonprofit or being a college professor or working on policy. I mean, there's just all these great positions and roles in the industry that I don't think many women know exist. And so the goal is to get more women to join the industry by telling the stories of the women who are already doing it.
Awesome. Awesome. And that's one reason why I wanted to have you on, like we talked about a little bit before the show, is to be that role model, because people do need to see examples and go, oh, I could do that. Right. Now you've seen it. Absolutely. And you can. So being, how shall I put this politely, a member of the persistent group who has stuck it out with their podcast more than a couple of episodes, because that's where most of them die. You're a member of a select club, I'd say. What have you learned that's impressed you the most about being a podcast host?
You know, one of the things that I was concerned about at the beginning of Mission Eve was being able to find enough guests who were, you know, both women in the space industry and willing to be on the podcast. And that was the thing I should have been the least concerned about. I've got potential guests coming at me from everywhere, which I love. And I'm just my heart is so warmed to see the level of interest and how many women are not only interested in the podcast, but interested in sharing their stories. So that's been very, very interesting and heartwarming to me to see the number of women who want to be involved and who are actively supporting and promoting the podcast for me. So it's been wonderful to have that support. And then I've been very, very lucky. My producer, Erin Pagel, has been just absolutely fantastic, so that I don't have to worry about any of the technical stuff or any of that. So I'd say that if you really want to be successful podcasting, find a partner, find somebody who's done it before, who can be a mentor, or you know what I mean, to kind of help you get over all those technical hurdles so that you can just relax and be yourself as a podcast host.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I haven't used a producer on this show, but I had like 10 years of public speaking and video experience before that. So it made it a lot easier, so I can understand how daunting it might seem. Folks think that the technical side of it's the most difficult when they start out, but it is not. The persistence is probably the most difficult, where you're, the churn basically, where you've got to keep putting in effort on it and reaching out and whatnot. So But
And
I enjoy the opportunities like this where you get to meet people you might not otherwise meet. So
exactly.
really got a
And one thing that I did with my podcast, just to kind of make it easier for me to handle and a little bit more bite-sized, is that we're only doing 14 or 15 episodes per season. And so I noticed that you're on 146, I think, is how many podcasts you've done over 3 years. That's amazing. That's a huge number. So congratulations, the persistence, like you said, that's really important and that's great. And in my case, having a smaller season is a little easier for me to break off and deal with amongst my other duties. And so that's made it a little easier for me.
Right. Well, cool. Well, where can people go? Where should people go, Meagan, to find out more about you, connect with you, and learn about SpaceFund, Brand DeltaV, and the Mission Eve podcast?
Great question. So linkedin.com/Meagan, MEAGAN, and SpaceFund website. And Mission Eve is available on your favorite podcasting platform. Just to give it a search in Spotify, Google. We're on YouTube. And then Mission Eve is a project of my nonprofit, which is the Center for Space Commerce and Finance. So you can find us on the web at CSCF, that's Charlie Sam Charlie Frank .space. And branddeltavie.com if you're interested in marketing services. But yeah, probably best just to start with my LinkedIn and work your way out from there.
All right. I'll link to these things in the description below. So very cool. All right, Meagan, thanks for being here. I really learned a lot.
Thank you for having me, Jason.
This is Jason Kanigan from Cold Star Tech. Thanks a lot for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do want to get email notifications of upcoming episodes or episodes that have just been released, and maybe a little news sprinkled in here and there, you can sign up for email notifications at coldstartech.com/MSB. That's short for Make Space Boring. That's another little show that I do. It's once, twice, 3 times a week, something like that. Anytime there's news or an update on who I'm meeting and what I'm studying in the space field. So you can go check that out. On the YouTube channel, I can do something that I cannot do on Anchor for the audio only side of things. The YouTube channel allows me to have playlists, and so you might want to go to the channel, the Cold Star Tech channel, and check out those playlists, because you will find you can go down a rabbit hole basically into several areas like space law and policy, small sats, and I think that's a lot easier than trying to scroll through 130 episodes or something like that looking for the thing that you want. So I recommend going and checking that out. And remember, if you're ready to take your space business to the next level, or you're a VC looking for deep and very valuable insight into a space company you're looking at investing in or investing further in, come and talk to us. Thanks for listening.